Pat Flynn here to help you make more money, save more time, and help more people too. Welcome to the daily show that I like to call the income stream. We are at day 89 right now. If this is your first time joining me, appreciate you. Stick around because today in particular, we're going to talk about getting more traffic. Morning, my name is Pat Flynn here to help you make more money, save more time, and help more people too. I heard myself. That's crazy, but you're here. I appreciate you. Let's talk about repurposing your content, how to take something that you're doing and get the most out of it. That's what we're talking about today here on the income stream. Thanks for joining me. Say hello in the chat. If you're here live, if you're watching the replay, that's cool too. Let's enjoy the show.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
What's up and good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Our Healing Project says good morning, everyone. Michael, what's up? Great to see you. Angela, good morning. Pat and everyone, good morning. Everyone says Remodel Media. We got A.B. Piers in the house. We got Chris. We got Joyce, Grandma Goody, Dr. Joella. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Vicky, Rylan, and all these other amazing people. This week's theme is traffic and getting more traffic in different kinds of ways. Yesterday we had a great conversation, and today we're speaking about repurposing your content, recycling this content, getting the most out of the hard work that we do. And I think this is very important to understand because those of us entrepreneurs, especially those of us who do content marketing, which means we help ourselves grow and scale by writing or recording audio or video content, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. We put our heart and soul into this. And a lot of times, unfortunately, we will put it out there and then we'll go, okay, it's out there in the world, you know, the whole field of dreams. If you build it, they will come approach. And as a result of that, nobody comes or fewer people come than if you spent more time marketing your stuff. Now, marketing is a really important component of this. And this is why I'm a big fan of eventually getting to the point where you can optimize your content creation methods. Again, no matter what platform you choose, blogging, podcast, or video, those are the three that we're going to cover today. Whatever your main one is that you're going to start on, we'll talk about different kinds of ways that we could repurpose that content. And there's some really fun things that we can do even before or as we are creating that content to get the most eyeballs or ears or eyes, I guess eyes I said already, on that thing. So let me know in the chat if you already retarget or recycle and repurpose your stuff. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, and here's the big drawback of this, we could get so caught up in these strategies of repurposing because we want to have our stuff found. We want to have our stuff seen by other people or heard by other people. We can spend more time repurposing and less time actually creating, right? Or we might spend so much time doing 50 different things with our piece of content that it actually becomes and feels like a chore. And we stop doing it because it's just too much work. So out of all, just to kind of preface this conversation today, out of all the things that we're going to talk about today, I want you to pick one or two that work for you. One or two of the strategies to help enhance the content that you're already coming out with. That way, it doesn't seem like you have to do everything. I'm giving you permission to not do everything. In fact, when you do everything, you get nothing done. All of your energy gets divided into all these different places. If you've read books like The One Thing by Jay Papasan and Gary Keller, you'll find quickly that it's not going to do you any good, right? So let's focus on the one or two strategies that we can add onto what we're doing already to hopefully get the most out of that. Now, when we hear repurposing, oftentimes we think, oh, we're just going to take a clip from that thing and post it on social media. And that's one method of several that you can use to repurpose. And again, like I said, we're going to focus in and hone in on the blog to start with and how we can repurpose that written content. Then we're going to focus on audio content, and then we're going to focus on video content, if that makes sense. Christy says, I repurpose a little, but it's been a time-consuming process for me. Absolutely. With each of these things, you're going to find that there are opportunities to get better, to get faster. And then ultimately, what can help is you can either find the right tools or potentially hire the right people to help make things easier for you. And when it comes to content creation, you want to do that too. Even if you don't repurpose, you want to hone in on your methods, your standard operating procedures, or SOPs as they're called. When you create a new piece of content, are you having to remember every bit and piece of that method to get it from your brain to the screen to published out there in the world? Or do you have sort of a checklist of items to help you do that such that you can eventually hand that off to somebody else. I also like SOPs because I can see and just laid out in front of me all the steps required to do something like publish a blog post or like publish a podcast episode or repurposing content. And you can start to see, wow, I am completely wasting my time here. Or there are 5 things here that I don't actually need to do to still get to the end goal, because we just kind of learned it a certain way. We've just continued to do that. I think being conscious of how you create your content is going to be step number 1, even before you repurpose. That way we can hone in on our strategies, hone in on our methods, and hopefully remove ourselves from that process more so that we can find more time to do this repurposing stuff. Cool. Still hot. Okay, Visual Stress Canada says, question, I have written thousands of words for a very content-heavy website and wondered if I can just take each section and do podcast, video, blog on each section, even if it is already there. This is a perfect question, and we'll start with blogs. So let me go into blogs, and this is something that'll hopefully answer your question and other people's question too. Now, blogs obviously are written content, generally speaking. You can embed other things on here too. And this is the other cool thing about repurposing. Oftentimes you can take, for example, a blog post and you can shoot a video about that or a podcast episode, and then you can embed it in there, thus enhancing it and talking about it. And so that's one method. We're just going to go over a number of different methods related to this. So taking the blog posts and turning it into audio content. And there's 2 different ways to do this. Right? You can take the theme and then you can create a podcast episode about it with the same theme. So let's say, for example, I write a blog post about live streaming, and then I might actually go on a podcast that I might have. Or, again, another way to think about this is you could potentially be a guest on another person's show. We're talking about the theme of what you wrote. You could take that theme and create an audio file about it, and you could talk about it in the same kind of way. Not reading it word for word, but talking about it, talking about the theme, taking different angles, a different approach, going deeper, right? So deeper, taking it further. What I also love about audio, you can tell stories or expand on the stories that you mentioned in the blog post. And this would be my preferred method because this gives people who listen to the audio a reason to go read the blog post. And it gives people a reason who read the blog post to go and listen to the audio. It's very similar to how my books, right? My books, I have a couple books, Will It Fly and Superfans more recently. And each of those books have an audio book to go along with it. The audiobook does include word for word what is written. However, I do expand on it. I do go off the script, as it's sometimes called. I first learned this from Gary Vaynerchuk. And what's really cool about this is it gives people who read the book still a reason to go and listen to the audiobook, right? And there's just more story. There's more things that are in depth about the things that I'm talking about. How do I do that? Well, when I'm in the studio, I consciously think of points where I can go deeper into stories. Or if things just come across my mind as I'm recording the audiobook, I'll just go there, right? I'm reading the book, but then I go there. Now, the other way to do this with a blog specifically is to read word for word. So literally just reading word for word and turning that into audio content. This was something that I first saw back in 2009, right? So I was following a podcast called Internet Business Mastery. And that was the first podcast that I ever listened to. It was the first podcast that really inspired me. And I got to give a lot of credit to Jeremy and Jason, the hosts there, who were the reason why I'm here today. They taught me everything that I know. I got into their academy back in the day, and they don't teach the same way they do anymore, but I do have to thank them for getting my start. They had a podcast with about 200 episodes at the time, and they wanted to experiment. So what they did was they just, to make it easy, they read off their content word for word from the blog. And so they had a podcast, but they also had a blog, and a lot of people didn't even know the blog existed. So what they did was they did audio blogs. That's what they called it, I think, audio blogs. They read word for word what they wrote on their website, internetbusinessmastery.com, on their podcast. And it just became a sort of second episode that came out during the week every once in a while. So their episodes normally came out, I think, on Tuesday, and they would every once in a while on Friday have an audio blog. And it would sound different, right? Because when you just read something word for word, it definitely sounds different than if it were just kind of off the cuff or more conversational. But they told me that they had a ton of people who listened to the podcast who said, whoa, I didn't even know you had a blog. I'm going to go check it out now, right? And they're just using the same exact content that started as a blog post. And that was really interesting too. So I think that that's a very smart option for you. It's less common, but it could be an option. I think that if you could perhaps combine both and do perhaps something similar like what I do with my books, where you could read word for word, especially if it's very in-depth, right? You could read it word for word, and then what you could do is expand on it in certain moments. Like, hey, let me get off the blog for a little bit and let me talk about this in a little bit more depth with you. And you can kind of combine both. So you can have a more hybrid approach as a third option. Hybrid approach. We're just talking about audio right now, right? Now, obviously, you can do something very similar with video too, right? So you can do or video. So taking this blog post and turning on the camera and talking about it. Like, hey guys, yesterday I wrote a blog post about this. I wanted to talk a little bit more about it today. And then you can take that video and you can embed it in the blog post. And then on the video description, you can have the video so they can cross promote each other. And this is where I start to see a lot of results in terms of Google and search engine optimization. I don't know if there's a direct correlation here, but you'll see more views on your video because people are watching it on your website, and you'll see more website traffic from people coming from your videos. And again, you're just using the theme. I think it's less likely to do video down here and just read it word for word. I don't think that a video would be worth watching if I simply was just taking a blog post and reading it word for word for you. Now, I can see a hybrid approach again, where I can take pieces and I can even use the video to actually show and display text on the screen during those times. And then I can expand on it, perhaps add some B-roll and things like that too. If I were to do a word for word sort of blog post to video thing, what I would do is I would read it, and that would be essentially the voiceover. And then what I would do is I would have sort of like those video essays that you might see on YouTube. Those are pre-written, and those are really well done because they have some B-roll. There's often music, especially if it's more inspirational in tone. If it's more educational, then it might be worth, just teaching that same thing in video format, which likely can help the person who's on the blog see what it is that you're talking about a little bit more, get to know you a little bit better, and using your blog on these other platforms can work really well too. I don't know why I have that toolkit up there. Cool. Yep, looking forward to the next stream. By the way, Karma, if you're in the house, Karma Cashflow, who is a member of our tribe here, he is celebrating his 10-year anniversary today. Congratulations, and well done. That's awesome. Sweet. So many people still don't understand the power of audio and video. Still so many people texting with others. Video and audio, surprisingly, still an untapped resource. Yes, I would essentially agree with you, even on the text messaging side of things, right? I get text messages from certain people, and I remember them because they are videos or audiograms, right? You can do this on direct messages on social media with your followers, and it becomes a very amazing personalized way to connect with somebody versus text. And it's just faster, right? It's just faster. Shelly says, will you tell us when we should post each place? I would start with whatever your primary platform is. Like, let's say, for example, the blog. I would publish the blog post first. And that way you can give that all the attention. I think providing a single platform 100% attention at a time from your audience makes sense. And instead of sort of putting them all out there in all the different places at once and having people be a little bit confused on where they should go first. That's just my take. I think other people might disagree with me, and that's okay. However, you can imagine a post about a specific topic that you go in depth with, right, that has a much longer runway. Day one, it's published on the blog. A week later, I publish a video about it. Now I let people know who may have even seen the blog post from last week, maybe even got excited about it, who want to go deeper with it and see me on a video talk about it and share some more information about it. And then maybe I go into a podcast episode after that where I then go and expand on some of those stories, or I bring a guest on to talk about that same topic in just a different voice. So taking that one theme and bringing it across all those different platforms could potentially work. Now, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to have access to all those different platforms. You could choose one. You don't have to go audio and then video, or video then audio. If you start with a blog, just choose one. And I think that this becomes a great place for you to start building your audience on another platform too. Be careful if you haven't yet finished honing in on how to produce a blog first, though. If you try to do this all up front, it's not going to work because your energy is going to be divided everywhere and it's just going to be overwhelming, right? We need to take it in baby steps, but this is what could potentially work for you. Let's see. Consult the Blind Guy says, what do you think about repurposing your notes from an event like FlynnCon as a guide for people who didn't attend or did and want understandable reference point? Thanks for the thumbs down, by the way. I hope you have a better day. Yeah, I mean, I think that could work. I think that there's something to be said for, offering those notes for free versus selling it. You want to obviously check with the founder of that conference should you choose to do that. But it could become a very nice thing for you. And I've seen this done at FlynnCon, for example. FlynnCon is a conference that I've attended in the past. It's called the Financial Blogger Conference. And I've seen people there take their notes and then share it just publicly on the web. And people who didn't go, because that community is very tight, they really appreciate that. And they enjoy it. It is something that is of service to the rest of the people who weren't able to join. It's just a matter of, if you were to just publish that, you need to be involved in conversations in and around that group so that people will find your stuff and see that you have that to offer, and hopefully it could potentially spread too. And so the jackpot would be the founder of that group or somebody within that group sharing it who has a large audience to other people too. Cool. Building a Bassoonist says, what if you start with a video? How might you do that? We'll talk about that for sure, but I still want to continue on. What if you start with a blog? So let's go back here, and I'm going to create a new layer here, and we're going to go to a black marker. There we go. So we're still talking about a blog. How else might we repurpose blog content? Well, you can take a series of blog posts and you can turn them into a lead magnet. A lead magnet is a thing that you offer in exchange for an email. This helps you build your email list. So I've done this in the past, and in fact, my very first lead magnet was a series of blog posts. Back in 2010, I came out with a guide called eBooks the Smart Way. I got known in the entrepreneurial space for creating a study guide or an ebook to help people pass an architectural exam on my first business. And so I wanted to share a resource to help people. I had, first off, a series of blog posts that came out. And this is something that you can do ahead of time. Perhaps you plan ahead of time knowing that you're going to write this series, it becomes public, and then you turn this series into a PDF file, for example, that can allow you to collect more emails. So here's what I did. I created, I think it was a 5 to 7, I can't remember exactly how many blog posts, but across an entire month, I came out with a series of blog posts to go from A to Z, how to write an ebook and how I did it, right? From the research to topic selection to then producing it and extracting it as a PDF file. And that's where people ended up, right? So this became a very popular series. People started sharing it, and it was sprinkled throughout my website. It was not all done in a row because I had other content that was there in between, but it was there. And I had a category for it. You could click a button and see all those web pages, those blog posts there. However, it was still not as convenient as if somebody were to just download it as a PDF. So I essentially took those blog posts, the same exact content, and I pasted it onto a PDF file, or a Word document. And then I doctored it up a little bit. I did this myself. I had a 3-column PDF file or Word document in landscape format, in fact, that would allow me to add images and sort of have chapters and stuff. And it took about a month to do. But in January of 2010, I took those blog posts, I put them on a PDF file, and I put them behind an email opt-in form, such that when a person would send me their email, I would give them this book. And that's all I promoted in January 2010. And I was able to collect, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 emails in that very first month because that book actually was of value to people. And in fact, it was so valuable that I remember I got one email from somebody who said it helped them write an ebook. This was years later. His name is Antonio Centeno from Real Men, Real Style. And he said that that particular lead magnet, which again was just born out of some series of blog posts. Allowed him to build an email list of over 100,000. And he actually sent me a personalized video when he saw that I started speaking that was 26 minutes in length to help me with my fashion and understand how clothes look on a person of my stature and skin color and all that stuff. And it was just such a valuable thing. So he and I have since become friends and have had numerous meals together, and he's a fantastic person. But that just simply came from the blog posts, right? So you can either go into the past and find specific blog posts that you've had and turn them into an ebook, right? Or you can create a series from this point forward that you know will then turn into an ebook after that. Man, coffee is good. Cool. So next, the thing you can do is you can turn it into a Kindle book. Kindle specifically is a lot easier to create. So this is like an ebook, right? So not used as a lead magnet, but you can actually use it to make some cash. Plus, there's an authority play here as well. There's an authority play. When people come across your website and they see that you actually have a book written, if two people are exactly the same, except one has an Amazon book and another one doesn't, the one with the Amazon book has immediately a higher level of authority because they have, you've heard that phrase, oh, I've written a book on that topic. Yes. Now, we all know that Amazon books are something that any of us can create. However, there's still a certain level of work that needs to be done to do that, and a little bit of confidence in yourself to do that as well. So whether this is a series of blog posts or just a compendium of blog posts that are about different themes that show up in an Amazon book, this becomes something of value. This becomes something that is, several people will actually prefer to read your blog post in this format versus going on a website, right? And thirdly, it can help you make some money. And that authority play is key too, right? It doesn't have to be the same name as your blog. It could be something made up or created by you, and it could be about a specific theme that you talk about within the blog or just your blog in general. And it could be sort of a highlight of notes and blog posts that you want to bring to light, and you can add images in there and you can make it look really great. And there's a lot of services and people and whatnot that will allow you to do this quite easily. It's not quite as easy as just, opening up a document, putting words in there, and then extracting it as a PDF file. There's a little bit of stuff that goes along with this. But the other cool thing about this is Amazon is a marketplace of buyers. They have, hundreds of millions of credit cards stored, and people can one-click purchase your thing. And what's really cool is it's also a search engine. It's, I think, the only search engine that is absolutely buyers on the other end, which is pretty cool. So if you can take advantage of keyword research, right? You could take advantage of keyword research. You can get ranked for these certain books that, again, are coming out of your blog. They can help you find more people and can help you make more money at the same time too. Great. Just looking at the chat, making sure I am not missing anything. Margaret says, I took a 3-part instructional post series and turned it into an ebook. That's awesome. Great. I met you through your Kindle book of Will It Fly, then an online free course, then found your podcast, and here I am. It is a journey. Indeed, it is a journey. Thank you, Grandma Goody. I appreciate you. Scully says, it's great to have a book for your channel. You know that. You help people write books. That's cool. Definitely check out Scully. There is also a person named Dave, who's really amazing, at kindlepreneur.com if you want to choose to follow him. By the way, if you haven't yet done so, especially if you're watching the replay, hit subscribe because we got some good stuff coming your way. So another way to repurpose things on your blog is a presentation. No. Sorry. Let me start over here. Presentation. Right? And this is very common, especially if you are in the speaker ring and you are somebody who goes on stages and presents, right? Taking a lot of your blog content as sort of the beginnings of things that could be used to tell more stories and help people on stages. I would consider, what would be your signature talk? Your signature talk is something that's really important if you're going to be speaking on stage. We've talked about public speaking in the past. We're probably going to be talking about it again in the future. It's something that I've been doing for nearly a decade now, about 9 years speaking on stage. And a signature talk is like the one talk that if you could only talk about that for the rest of your journey here, at least at this moment in time, and get invited to speak on stages, that's the talk you'd want to do. So you could probably find some very popular posts and things that are proven on your blog that could be worth extrapolating and turning into something a little bit more bigger, a little bit more supported with story, a little bit fine-tuned with slides and things like that. There used to be a tool called Slide Deck. Chad, do you remember the name of that? It was a platform where you could actually put your PowerPoint and keynote presentations, and it was a great place to get traffic back in the day. I don't know what happened to it, but Slide, I think LinkedIn bought it and then just didn't do anything with it. I can't remember the name of it, but Pat, what are your thoughts on crossovers? Bloggers blogging about someone else's YouTube channel or vice versa? Bloggers blogging about someone else's YouTube channel. Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I think especially if you offer it as a resource, that it can definitely help serve your audience. It could also be a great way to connect with that YouTuber or that podcaster, to showcase them, offers a starting point in terms of a conversation. Slide share. Thank you. Thank you so much, Andre, excuse me. Appreciate that. Thank you, Gail. So yeah, crossovers are great, but I'm just talking about right now your blog and how you could take that and turn it into something else using the content that you might already have, right? So let's focus on podcast content now. Now, I had mentioned earlier that there could potentially be ways to quote unquote repurpose stuff while you are creating. Now, unfortunately, the blog is not very easy to do that with because it's writing and it's kind of boring to watch. So let's in fact talk about podcasting now. Should you have a podcast? There's some really interesting things you can do with your show. Now let's first talk about before. Here is what you could potentially do. While recording, you can go live. And that's pretty cool because you offer people a behind the scenes look of the creation of your podcast, and you get people to feel special, right? That's the cool thing about behind the scenes. It feels special. It's like a special moment. It's like a preview, right? It's like hey, I get access to this before anyone else, and you can build a lot of super fans by offering this sort of opportunity, which is really cool. I did something similar here on the channel where I was live with you here on the income stream. I don't know what day it was, day 30 or something. And I actually spent a moment in the middle recording a YouTube video that my editor extrapolated, took out, and then we published that as a YouTube video, just that center portion. And a lot of you enjoyed seeing the behind the scenes of that, but that video actually took off. It, in fact, has earned over 300,000 views or around that during this time, which was pretty cool. So again, we're talking about repurposing content, taking the thing that you created in one place, or in this case, with a podcast, you are creating the podcast and getting people excited about it while it's happening, right? You could also, oops, man, why do I keep doing that? When you double tap the pen like this on the iPad Pro, it switches. You'll see here on the iPad, upper right-hand corner, it like switches right over here. It's pretty cool, but then I accidentally double tap it every once in a while. So which one am I at? Okay, there we go. So while recording, go live. So let me just share an example. Shalene Johnson, she's somebody who does this, and she does it very well. So what she'll do is actually she'll go live to her audience on Facebook. That's her primary platform for going live. She actually goes live quite a bit on Instagram as well, but she does this on Facebook. She'll go live with a topic in mind already, the topic that she's going to be talking about in the podcast episode. But she's live with her audience. She spends about 10 to 15 minutes chatting with her audience, much like how you and I are chatting with each other right now. And then what happens is she goes, all right, everybody, for the next 25 to 35 minutes, I will not be able to interact with you, but stick around because what you're actually about to listen to is me recording an entire podcast episode about this. This will come out in a few weeks, so you're getting an early preview of it. Thank you for being here, and make sure you stick around because at the end we're going to have some conversation about it too. I'll answer your questions about it, and so stick around. So you can chat amongst each other and listen in as I record this episode. Okay, so hang on, and then she just records her podcast episode from there. And what she does is she takes that middle part, which is the podcast recording. Essentially, there's a few things that can happen here, right? So when you go live, some really interesting things happen. I talked about this on a workshop yesterday for Fusebox.fm customers, and everybody really enjoyed this. So make sure to pay attention because we're going to get a little bit of advanced here. But this is a cool way to, as you are actually recording your podcast episode, get a lot of things out of this, right? So we are live while recording the show, so people get all this behind the scenes stuff, right? The podcast episode is recorded during it, and what you can do is you can take bits of this live. So let's say, for example, that this is actually let me start a new thing here. So this is the live stream where I'm recording my podcast episode, right? So this is interaction till here, and then interaction here. And this is when I'm recording the podcast episode, right? That's not the best bracket, but there's still video happening during this time, right? So now the cool thing about this is if you're on a platform like YouTube or Facebook, what you can do is you can watch the replay of the recording, turn on captions. Thank you, Hey Archer, I appreciate you, man. Turn on the captions and then record the screen. So now you have a file that is a video that has captions, a caption video that you can then chop up into different pieces. So now you know how it's popular to take clips from your audio podcast and put them in a video format and then add captions to them so that you can share them in 60-second bits on social media? Well, guess what? If you do it this way, they're already created and the captions are there automatically generated by Facebook or YouTube. Does this make sense? So this is really neat because now you're saving money because there's a lot of tools out there, and I'll share with you some of these tools in just a minute, like Wave and Headliner and whatnot that allow you to pop your audio in there and they give you back a video. Well, what better way to do a video than you actually being on video with captions already showing up, and that could work really, really well too. Hey Archer, thank you so much for the super chat. Bruh. Appreciate you, my friend. So you can take these bits and moments where it's actually you on video and it's a preview essentially of your podcast. So when your podcast comes out, now you have material that you can use to promote it. And it's not something you need to pay for. It's something that actually is even more valuable because your face is showing up and it's auto captioned, and it's not going to be the most decorated thing. You can add it. You can add some decoration in terms of, colors or branding or logos or whatever later. But this is a pretty cool strategy that I haven't really seen anybody do. I don't even know if Shalene takes these clips like I was talking about. She does take the entire podcast episode, and then that becomes a nice video that then she can pop into YouTube as well. So you see here, the one podcast episode turned into, first of all, a really cool behind the scenes moment in these interaction pieces, a YouTube video, several clips that you can use for social media, and I don't know if you could download the caption though, because we're going to talk about transcripts in just a minute here. But this is a really cool thing that you might be able to do. So I just wanted to offer that to you. Let's also talk about transcripts as well. So again, we're talking about podcasts, and we're going to turn them into transcripts. That is written content that's word for word what you mentioned on the podcast, right? And there's a lot of tools. I use Rev. Rev is a pretty expensive tool. It's $1.25 per minute. So, a 60-minute episode, that's going to be, $80, right? So that's pretty expensive. So you got to keep that in mind. I don't know if my math is correct there. But there are some other tools like Temi and Otter.ai and Descript. And these tools, this one, and this one, will auto-generate your transcript with AI or machine learning. And they're not quite perfect. I find them to be 92 to 95% accurate, which is not bad, right? What's nice about Rev, it's a human doing it, and it's about 99% correct. However, it's a lot more expensive. What I would do is, if you're going to use this transcript, the transcript is great because it can provide SEO for your website, right? So imagine a podcast episode that might be, 30 minutes in length. That might be 10,000 words, right? Or 50 or 5,000 words that are now on your blog that can capture people through Google search. This is important. I've had conversations. I've paid SEO experts not just to tell me this, like I've worked with them to optimize my website, but through those conversations, I've asked about transcripts, and they all say 100% yes, get the transcripts for your podcast so that you can take advantage of SEO. Now, the hard thing about transcripts on websites is that oftentimes you'll see the page is like, 1 billion miles long because you just pop in the transcript there. You got to be careful with different tools that you use to pop in the transcript, because if they're put in a certain frame and it's not coded correctly, Google's not going to see it. It'll be there. It'll be nice and neat in a frame on a website, but it's not going to stand out and be seen the way that you would want it to be seen. I want to show you what I recommend to help combat that, both the length of the transcript and the SEO of it. So if you go to Fusebox.fm, this is one of my companies, by the way. It was formerly known as the Smart Podcast Player, but we've added more tools in here for you. There is a free tool, if you sign up to get access to the tools, called the Transcript plugin. So this is where your transcript can be seen like this. So within your blog post, you would see the transcript, and this is something that actually the Pro version integrates with Rev. So if you create a Rev transcript, you can just pull it in from your WordPress dashboard and pop it in there like that, which is pretty cool. And what you can do is you can expand this and make it smaller again. This plugin does this automatically for you. You can put and open this in a new tab, and you can download it. The cool thing about the download is it also includes your artwork automatically, and that's something that you don't have to create a unique PDF file for. It'll automatically generate that for you. And this is pretty cool because it also is coded specifically for SEO. It's SEO friendly. It is downloadable PDF, pop-out tab. So again, Fusebox.fm, you can sign up for a free account there if you want to check that out, to experiment with it and see how your transcript can be placed in there in a nice and neat way, which is pretty cool. The other cool thing about a transcript is that now you have all this text that you can then pull out and use in a book. Did you know that a lot of people put their transcripts on Amazon? So let's say, for example, I'm on my computer here. I'm not going to donate to charity right now because we're already doing that through the super chats here in the income stream. But here's one that I was coming across yesterday. This is for a podcast. It is a book on Amazon that is literally just the podcast transcripts, right? So you could take your podcast transcripts and put them into a book. Did you know that the Tools of Titans book from Tim Ferriss, this is essentially just a number of different conversations that he's had with titans in the industry and the tools that they use. I think there's a Howard Stern book, right? I think it's this book comes again. I can't remember what Howard Stern book it was. It might be this one. But there is a Howard Stern book that is essentially just transcripts of his conversations, right? So there's some really cool things you can do with your transcript from there. Also, your transcript can provide you opportunities for written blog post content. You can take bits and pieces of your transcript and pop it in there. Also with audio, I want to go over some of these tools really quick. Should you choose to want to take them, you don't want to go through that strategy of having to, give away the podcast essentially ahead of time by going live, which again, it's a pretty cool thing to do. But, it's a little bit scary to be live in front of an audience and record a podcast. You might be making mistakes. If If it's an interview with somebody, you have to worry about technology and bandwidth being used up by the live stream versus what you might want to make sure that the audio quality is great. But there's some other tools out there which I can share with you. Wave.co is something that you can use. Headliner.app is another one. So Wave.co, Headliner.app, and the other one would be Splasheo.com. This is run by my good friend Gideon Shawick, who's been on the podcast before. And you can see an example of right here what you get back. After you send an audio or video, you get this really nice caption video with a headline and then the transcripts transcribed by people. It's much more expensive than these other tools. However, these work out really, really great. Sean Stevenson uses a service like this too, which is pretty cool. Neat. Okay, let's see. Podcast. Let's go back to here and let me just think a little bit further on this. So how else might you be able to repurpose your podcast content? Let's talk about taking your podcast and turning it into a video. How might you do that? Well, there's some different ways that you can do this. A lot of people take their full episode and they pop it onto YouTube. Now, I wouldn't recommend, that means don't, just popping it on YouTube with a single image and just having the audio play. This is something that I've seen done before, and there is no value. There is absolutely no value in watching this, right? There's no value in watching this video that's just a single slide with audio playing for 40 minutes. That's actually going to hurt your YouTube channel. Because what is happening is people will come and see that video. YouTube is going to see if people want to watch it. They share the impressions of it with people, and then people are going to come to it and they're going to leave right away. There's no value in sticking around, right? There's nothing visual to pay attention to. So even if they go and subscribe to your podcast from there, it's hurting your YouTube channel because you're sending signals to YouTube that people are coming, they're leaving, they're not going to display your stuff, even your other videos as much as they would normally if you have people stick around, because what you want people to do on YouTube is to stay and watch the entire time. Now, if you were to record your podcast with video, like you turn the camera on, that then becomes something that would then be worthwhile to watch. However, if it's just, a side-by-side Skype interview, for example, for 45 minutes, that's better than just having a single image. At least it's two people talking, but even then, it's not as valuable because if it is built specifically for audio, then it's going to leave something behind on video, right? So two people talking, or even just you talking to the camera the entire time, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to, again, hold that engagement, keep people on, and keep people watching, and that could potentially hurt you too. There are channels that we know about, obviously, that do this very, very well, and they have people stick around. You might know JRE Experience, Joe Rogan, right? Powerful JRE. All of his podcasts are done on video.
Front of the line.
Right? But people watch them. Why? Because he is the most powerful personality in the world and also has amazing personalities and celebrities on his show. If you have a celebrity on your show or a big A-lister in your space, then yes, this could work because people want to watch that person the whole time. Right? Not necessarily you, if you're not at that celebrity status yet. It's a lot more difficult to do this. There's other people like College Info Geek podcast, which is a highly produced podcast.
Hey, what is going on, everybody?
So this is Thomas Frank and his friend who create a podcast. And it is an audio podcast, but they spend a lot of time producing the video. They have multiple camera angles. They have some, visuals that come across the screen, plus just a studio to record this in, right? So let's play a little bit of this episode.
And welcome to the College Info Geek podcast, the most mediocre podcast. It's not mediocre. I hope it's not. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to reference Matt.
I'm waiting for them to change
let us know in the
there we go.
comments if it's mediocre. Just
let us know in the comments if it's mediocre.
Yeah.
So see, now you got 3 camera angles already more visually compelling than if it was just like, two people talking or even one person talking, right? But that's a lot of high value stuff, right? But it takes a lot more work. There's a lot more money to be spent on the equipment in the studio. Plus, a lot of our podcasts interviews are done on the internet, right? So that's kind of tough. Here is a strategy that has worked for me. So I did an interview on my show. Let me just go to smartpassiveincome.com really quick. I'm going to go to the search bar and I'm going to type MKBHD. So I interviewed YouTuber Marcus Brownlee, aka MKBHD, on my podcast in episode 352, right? And this was a really good conversation. There's a transcript, by the way, right there, which is pretty cool. I turned on the video because I knew that I was going to do something with this video. I did not publish the full interview on YouTube because it was quite a long conversation. And again, it was just us talking back and forth. But I did turn on the video on Skype, and you can do this on Zoom or what have you. And I was trying to come up with a creative way to take that video and repurpose it. Or take the podcast and repurpose it. So here's what I did. On my YouTube channel, I created a video called 5 Surprising Facts About MKBHD and His Success. He, in this interview, shared some really interesting facts about how he got started and how his first 100 videos were for his first 100 subscribers. And MKBHD now has, 11 million subscribers now, which is pretty crazy. Anyway, I want to share with you how I position this video and where the interview videos pop in. I did have to record, and I wanted to record an intro to set this up. And I also recorded bits and pieces in between these facts. It did take a little bit more work. It wasn't just like take this thing that's already done and pop it onto YouTube. But I was able to utilize a lot of this conversation and the video that came as a result and repurpose it and get, 11,000 views. And I've seen people, in fact, I've had some people email me and tell me, Pat, it was that I found your video with MKBHD. I'm into your stuff now. Thank you so much. Right? So this works really well too. You can also edit and include B-roll that relates to the conversation. This is exactly what I would recommend you do too. So let's share the computer here. And this is the video I was talking about from MKBHD, 5 surprising facts about MKBHD's YouTube success. So I'm going to play this video for you. I will tell you up front that I do talk too much, right? You want to get into, remember, people are coming to this because they want to hear about MKBHD's success. I talked a little bit too much about how I took this podcast episode and how I, repurposed it. I just am learning as we go too, but I'm going to play about a minute and a half for you here at the top. This is young Pat without a beard. Pat here. The other day I had the amazing opportunity to interview Marcus Brownlee, also known as MKBHD, somebody who I really look up to, so that was really exciting. But more than that, I was able to dissect and understand exactly how he got his start on YouTube. If you don't know who Marcus is, he has an amazing YouTube channel with some very, very high quality tech review type videos. But he's even now at a point where he's able to gain access to people because of how big he is, like Elon Musk. He interviewed Elon Musk in a recent video, and his YouTube channel is approaching 8 million subscribers at this point. So what I wanted to do in this interview was really understand, well, how did he get his start? What were his beginnings like? And through that conversation, I found out 5 very surprising facts about how MKBHD got started. So that's what I'm going to share with you in this video today. So you're actually going to see clips from this podcast interview, which I recorded both on audio and video. If you want to listen to the full episode, So you see how I'm talking too much? This is the part that's important too, that I'm about to share. A link to the podcast below, because this can help drive more traffic and listeners to my podcast. We have the link below to my podcast where you can hear the entire interview. But for now, I'm going to share with you these 5 surprises that I learned about MKBHD at his start. And the first one being how many people he was actually creating videos for and how many videos he created for such a small audience, which is going to... See, I wouldn't even have mentioned that. If I were to do this over, here's what I would do. I would say, hey, my name is Pat Flynn. I recently interviewed MKBHD and found out 5 surprising facts about the growth of his channel. In fact, I was blown away about what I learned. So stick around because I'm going to share with you 5 facts, which are actually coming from this larger podcast episode. I'll put a link in the description below, but let's get into the first one right now. So that was 20 seconds. That was a much better hook. The surprising facts I did not even reveal. I'm going to let the videos speak for themselves, and it would get people who come in because of MKBHD to get to what they came for faster, right? There was no reason for me to go deeper into that, so hopefully that makes sense. It sound pretty crazy.
I made my first 100 or so videos for less than 100 people. So I think it was just kind of a fun thing I enjoyed doing. And at that time, obviously, YouTube's much smaller, much earlier. And I kind of had the benefit of I was in high school. I didn't really have to worry about whether or not it's sustainable or whether or not I was doing the right thing. It's just a hobby that I found a lot of joy in.
You know, one thing I've learned about entrepreneurs and people who are just creators, and then I come in and I teach a little bit, and I think that's okay at that point. But at the beginning, I think I could have been a little bit better at getting faster or just getting to the point. And, you know, we've talked about this many times when we talked about video. Just like, let's get to the point and let's help people understand why they need to stick around. And remember why people are coming to watch. They're not coming to watch me. They're coming to watch and learn about these surprising facts. I could have done this a little bit better, but hopefully that makes sense. Why do you want the captions? Is it to get SEO? Can people turn the captions off? Yes, people can turn the captions off, indeed. Yes, they can. So those are some ways that you can take your podcast episode and repurpose it into a video. And then, of course, you can embed that video onto your blog. You can then share it on social media. And because it's a lot more digestible, this is just a 6-minute video versus a 50-minute podcast. It's something that people are more likely to feel like they can insert into their life at that time, right? So then hopefully they get excited about that, and then they can go deeper into the interview. At the end of these little clips, for example, you really want to make sure that people know where to get the rest of the interview, right? So I think that's really key. This is in itself an example of repurposing. Now people are going to do that video to check it out, using it as an example or case study. Yeah, it's very meta, is it not? Okay, cool. Let's talk about video now in the last 8 minutes here, and what we can do with video. Now, the most common thing that people consider when it comes to video is, how can I take this video? The cool thing about video is that you have audio content, and then that audio content can turn into the transcript. And the video can also be chopped up for social. And you can use all these different components from the origin, which is the video, right? Which is pretty cool. However, we gotta talk about this a little bit, right? And the transcript could be used for the blog, or books, or lead magnets, or whatever. Any of this stuff, the audio files, the videos that you create, the blog posts, any of those can be used for lead magnets. I didn't talk about that with the podcast, but any of this stuff can be put behind an email opt-in. Perhaps on the podcast, it could be, for example, you know, an additional 10 minutes with a big name in your industry that people want to listen to as bonus content, but they have to give you your email in order to get that. So that could be an option too. But I want to talk about specifically audio files coming from video, right? So video to audio. Now, this is something that we got to pay attention to, right? Because the video does come with the audio with it. However, a big however, if you just take the audio from the video, like let's say, for example, I were to take the audio from this video right here. If I were to put it into a podcast, it could be worth doing. And in fact, it's something that I'm going to be exploring very soon. However, it's not going to provide the full experience if it is a good video, right? Because if it is a good video, it has visual elements. It has things that are worth watching in most cases. And if you were to just take the audio and pop that into a podcast, for example, it could reduce that experience, and it could lead to a person not getting everything that they need to stick around. I'm just letting you know, right? Like, let's say, for example, I wrote a chart here, right? Like I wrote a really helpful chart, and I'm talking about how we're playing tic-tac-toe together, right? And, boom. Somebody listening to me talk about these things that are visual, I don't know why I play tic-tac-toe right now, but if a person's listening and you say, oh, look at this, or this chart here, or this visual here, or look at this example here, the listener is not going to have the full experience, and it can actually hurt. In fact, it can actually hurt quite a bit. They're not going to be like, oh, I'm so hurt. They're just going to go, oh, well, this, is just repurposed from somewhere else, and I don't get the full experience here. So you got to be careful, right? You got to be careful about that. You could do the clips thing where you might take clips from audio and pop them into video. In fact, that's very common too. I think I've done this in a few videos in the past. I cannot remember in which videos, but I've taken clips from podcast episodes and I've popped them into video. But in the video, I will have an image that then, actually, no, we're talking about audio going to video. Sorry. Anyway, taking the audio from a video and taking the audio from a video and popping it into a podcast, you just got to be careful about that, right? And I think that the best way to combat that would be to, if you are indeed going to do that, I would preface what it is that you're about to share with the fact that the origin was on a video channel at some point early on. And that way you get a little bit more lenience, you get a little bit more freedom, and you have the possibility of somebody coming over from that podcast and coming in and watching the video from there too, right? Like, hey, to get the full experience, come and watch me live on YouTube every single morning. But what you're about to listen to is a replay of today's income stream day 89, where we talk about repurposing content. And this is what you're going to learn. And this is why you need to stick around and what we're going to cover, right? So by the end of this, you'll know exactly the kinds of options that you have to take content that you've already created or you are creating as you go, and then, boom, put it out there, right? So the other cool thing about a video in particular is you can also, as you are creating it, you could be a little bit brave and have the camera turned on for live streaming as well. What I've seen a lot of people do is when they're recording videos like this or for YouTube, they actually have their phone set up and Instagram live on at the same time. So people feel like they're watching sort of the behind the scenes of a video being produced. And a video being produced is a lot more visual and more interesting than just a podcast and somebody speaking on a microphone. So you do have the option of building super fans and getting kind of cool things like that as well. The other cool thing that you can do with a video in particular is that you can take bits and pieces of your videos and you can use them on your live streams. I don't know if you knew that you can do that, but you can actually take, for example, on Ecamm Live, there is the possibility for you to, if I were to share my computer, I don't know if you could see this. No, you can't see it. You can take a YouTube video or a clip from a video and actually play it as a pre-recorded video while live. So let's say, for example, there was a 5-minute break I needed to take in the middle of a live stream. I can just pop in a video that I've previously produced and it becomes a part of the live stream and people can comment on it live, even though it was pre-recorded. I can take that video and pop it elsewhere, right? I can take that video and share clips of it on YouTube. In fact, a great strategy would be to consider IGTV. So Instagram television. I remember when IGTV came out, it wasn't really a big deal, but now a lot of people are using it to repurpose their video content. So here's what I would do with videos. So definitely pop it onto YouTube. Video strategy to finish up. Number one, pop it onto YouTube for sure. You could take clips from that and pop it into social media, or you can upload directly to IGTV. And what IGTV does is it allows you to also include a 15-second clip for your main feed. You'll see Gary Vaynerchuk do this as well. So now people who follow your main Instagram, they're going to see the 15-second clip and will be likely to watch the full video after that. Upload full video. I would then take that same video and upload natively to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. So Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter prefer native content. If you just simply take a YouTube video and link on these places, it's not going to work. It's going to throttle the reach 100%, almost. And then number 4, what you could do is you could use a tool like Splashio.com to, once again, create these really nice captioned versions that are perfect for social media, right? So you send them a video like this and they turn it into a square. That could work out really well. I did this previously, I think, as well. Let's see, let's go to Instagram.com/PatFlynn. And I'm going to see if I have a version of this. So here's a version of this from Splashio, by the way.
The coronavirus pushing unemployment to its highest level since the Great Depression.
This was a YouTube video that I put into Splashio that then ended up here, and this is also part of IGTV.
20.5 million Americans unemployed in the month of April.
Record unemployment because of the coronavirus. Tens of millions of Americans out of work and in desperate need of help this morning.
Hey. This video is for you if you've been laid off recently. So anyway, that could be an amazing strategy. Michael says, would you upload video to both? Whoa, yo, I just blew up the internet. Sorry about that. Look at that, Ecamm Live quit unexpectedly. I don't know what happened. That's never happened before. I might need to update it, in fact, because I saw an update thing come in and maybe that's why. Anyway, there was a question here from Michael to finish off that says, would you upload a video to both platforms at the same time or wait to upload them separately to drive traffic to one or the other? For social media in particular, I would upload to all those places so you can have more velocity for that origin piece of content, if you will. And just to kind of have more noise about it, especially if it's something that is relevant to the times right now. Let's not wait on it. So I would have it all posted at the same time if possible. Cool. How did you get permission to use major network clips? It's called fair use, right? If you want to look up more information about that, I can't talk about that as much as I would like to today because we're at the end of our time here. But you do have the ability to take these clips and to use them to support your content. And there's a lot of rules and gray areas about this, obviously, but it is something that is definitely possible to do. So more on that later. You could look up some great fair use videos from people like Tim Schmoyer, and there's a lot of information online about this as well. And yeah, so hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you for today. This is really great. And let's see, question, Pat. Have you ever watched music by Blanks on YouTube? He has 1 million subs. He goes on Instagram to help him write a song and records the whole process. Very awesome, very cool. Yeah, again, I love the sort of behind the scenes aspect of this too, Don, which is really cool. Yeah, I don't know what happened. That was weird. Anyway, hey y'all, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you. Make sure to come in tomorrow if you can. patflynn.com/theincomestream, and I hope this was helpful for you. So take action. Let me know what you think. If you could hook me up with a thumbs up, that would be extremely amazing. And if you wanted to leave a comment after this is done processing and just kind of let people know who come and watch the replay later that this is worth their time, that would be excellent. And yeah, hey Dan, appreciate you being here. No worries. And yeah, let's keep hanging out together. So tomorrow we're going to talk more about traffic, another different strategy that you can use to potentially gain more traffic. And again, as a reminder, like I said in the beginning, you don't have to do all of this. Just choose one or two things, have that become something you focus on. That way you put all your energy into that and you have it be a nice one thing that you do after you publish your content so that you can get more out of it versus trying to do 50 things that don't do anything, right? So let's focus. Let's have a good time. I'll see you tomorrow. Again, patflynn.com/theincomestream, and I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to start a little early. Remember, Wednesdays I start a half hour early, so 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and that's just unique to Wednesday. So we'll see you tomorrow a little bit early. Thank you so much, and as always, Team Flynn for the win. Peace out, y'all. Appreciate you.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Hey y'all, thank you for showing up every day. You make me happy. You give me energy. I want to give that energy back to you. Make sure you stick around. Share the income stream with somebody if you'd like. Again, this is the link, patflynn.com/theincomestream, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out, y'all.